Hello, this is Scott Pacino, editor of Telecoms.com, here at Mobile World Congress 2024. And I'm here at this special panel session on the Mavenir stand. And I've got BG Kumar from Mavenir, who's president of Access Networks at Mavenir. We've got Mohammed Abdelaziz, who's head of RAN strategy and architecture at VMO2. And we've got Sam Tabara, CEO of Paradise Mobile. And we're going to talk about Open RAN, which is obviously the major theme for Mavenir at the show. So, BG, could I start just by asking you to sort of frame it more generally? Obviously, it's been a major topic in the telecoms industry for quite a while now, but I get the feeling it's that the message has been evolving around it. Could you just start by sort of telling us sort of the essence of what the philosophy behind Open RAN and disaggregated networks is in general?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So Mavenir, we've been one of the pioneers at Open RAN. We've been speaking Open RAN for a long time. And I'm glad finally I see the industry is now moving towards Open RAN. I see almost all the major carriers, all the major vendors are all approaching or adopting Open RAN. Now, some of the key benefits of Open RAN, if you look at the entire telco stack, every other layer in the telco stack has been disaggregated. And what disaggregation brings, it brings more competition, it lowers TCO, and it brings innovation. So if you look at the IMS world, the packet core world, they're all running completely disaggregated networks. But the largest piece of our telco stack is the access network. And historically, it has been a very closed ecosystem which prevented innovation, prevented competition, and the operators didn't benefit from it. Finally, I'm very glad to see that all the major operators, and we have some of our friends here today, they're all beginning to see the benefits of Open RAN, and they're all pushing now the vendor ecosystem to adopt Open RAN because it brings, again, all the optimizations, cost optimizations, a lot of innovation, and more importantly, a lot of competition, which is very critical for this space.
Okay, so I'm turning to two representatives of operators here. I'll start with you, Mohammed, from VMO2. Does what BG just said about Open RAN, does that concur with your experiences with it?
It does, yeah. And I would actually add to that is also, Open RAN to me is not just about the technology, it's not about the architecture, it's about the platform. It's actually a different way of building the RAN, it's a different way of deploying the RAN. And that brings actually a whole host of benefits and efficiencies as well. For example, by actually being able to innovate at the pace of the software, which is a much shorter cycle compared to the hardware, that actually opens up opportunity in bringing new product and new services to market a lot quicker than we actually used to do. This is one area. The other area is around efficiency. If we can actually deploy new feature, test and deploy new features a lot quicker, that means the benefit realization can be a lot quicker as well compared to the traditional classical RAN.
Okay. And over to you, Sam. Is your experience similar to theirs, or is there a different take on it from you?
Yeah, I mean, there was no question. Our being a greenfield, we had the benefit of not having legacy and not having to make trade-offs and learning sort of from the last 2 decades of telco pain points and limitations. So our whole network is cloud native. I mean, I don't have a single proprietary. It's one SKU, one x86 Dell, whether it's under the cell site, whether it's in the data center. And the idea that, we would go to all that trouble with a dozen different vendors, whether it's, my Palo Alto firewalls, or whether it's my Thales eSIM vendor, or whether it's all my Mavenir core, and then all of a sudden I'd put a proprietary hardware device at the edge. It locked me in to something just from a supply chain, sparing, future roadmap. Open RAN is definitely everything where you're looking at open standards and flexibility is giving you more options and hedging your bets in the future. We haven't figured out how to virtualize a physical antenna or radio yet, but everything short of that should not have to be locked in.
Yeah, that's one of the differentiations. If I just pick up on what Sam just said and what Mohammed just said, Open RAN just talks about open interfaces and the network is disaggregated. It does not mandate what type of philosophy or technology you bring to it. So what Mavenir has done, we have decided to build Open RAN the cloud native way. So we have gone completely COTS hardware, x86 based, open CAS, so it's Red Hat, or it could be any of the VMware, it could be any of those CAS layers. So that what we find is if you look at the hardware layer, or at the server layer or at the CAS layer, those bigger companies, they innovate. They're going to innovate much faster than those than the telco companies, because they're only focused on their small slice or the small workload. Whereas these guys, they're innovating constantly, bringing better performance, more energy savings. So that's what Open RAN brings. And Mavenir, when we started, because we came into the game new to the RAN space, we started with cloud native as a requirement. And we built microservices-based architecture right from day one. So it brings a lot of innovation and a lot of energy efficiency as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. And hearing what Sam was saying about being a greenfield operator and thus being able to be like cloud native from the get-go is quite handy. But then VMO2 is obviously not a greenfield operator. And I'd be interested to know a bit more from you, Mohammed, about some of the challenges and opportunities that upgrading your legacy equipment in this direction.
Yeah, we obviously have a big mobile network in the UK serving millions of customers on a daily basis. Upgrading an existing network whilst actually continue to deliver quality of service and good experience to existing customers is always a challenge. Whether it's Open RAN or a different vendor is always a challenge, swapping out an existing vendor. So we have to balance out what we've got today. We have to balance out how we make the transition between today's architecture, today's solution, into the new Open RAN architecture. I think we also need to look at this in the broader context that we are moving to virtualization of the RAN. We are moving to a cloud-based LAN as a platform. We already started actually that journey. Open RAN allows us to go faster on this journey because it's cloud native day one. Yeah. But certainly when we start actually introducing into our live environment, there's a lot of trades-off and balances that we're gonna have to consider. Again, how we maintain current service level to our customers, how we make sure that the new solution will deliver parity in terms of feature set, in terms of performance. And that's what we've been actually working with Mavenir on, is to close the gap, make sure we've got parity and performance as we start getting into the field is gonna be equal or better.
Yeah, it must be a pretty delicate balancing out that sort of upgrading. As you say, it's got to stay live. People still don't want to be disconnected.
Absolutely. And there's a few ways actually to do it. The way we're currently doing it, obviously we pick up the time of the day where the traffic is at lowest point. We make sure there is a backup layer to actually carry the traffic as we make the switch from the legacy at this particular site to the new stack. It's a very delicate balance. We obviously want to keep our customers happy, and we're going to continue to deliver the experience that they have been accustomed to. But the beauty, once you've rolled out the physical infrastructure and your cloud infrastructure, any subsequent upgrade becomes more or less seamless. So it's that initial phase to get your physical infrastructure landed on the ground in a kind of really balanced way that protects the existing services and customers whilst you're modernizing. But once you've got the platform, both on the sales side and on the cloud, you really have a scalable infrastructure that can scale up and down.
Yeah, and something else to just add on to what Mohammed just said. What cloud native brings is automation. So automation has never been a key function of the RAN space historically. And when we come into the space from a cloud native approach, we bring the full automation to the entire stack. So that's a huge, significant savings from an operating the system model. And the other thing is, if you look at today, all your major operators, their IT systems are already cloud native. And the IT team is already very familiar with how cloud native works. They're familiar with automation. But the telco side, especially on the RAN, on the access side, has always lagged behind. Now we are bringing the access side also to the rest of the world.
Yeah, the big message I'm getting from this conversation today and other ones is a lot of Open RAN is about future-proofing.
Exactly.
In the ways that you two just described. I'll just bring you back in, Sam. Is that how you see it? Is that why you would go in that direction as a greenfield operator, because you think this is going to sort of future-proof your network?
Well, 100%. There's no question, and you know, partners like Mavenir are instrumental because they were always a software company first, and now are getting into hardware versus a lot of the traditional problems of people the bigger vendors that make great radios, trying to move into this space. It's actually a lot harder to go from hardware to software.
Yes.
you can commoditize hardware, especially when you're disaggregating and removing the secret sauce out of it into the software. And then the speed at which you are actually introducing features and capabilities when it's just software, and the fact that it's actually open standard. So, we're betting on to be partners with Mavenir because they have the best software today. But if tomorrow there's someone else that has better software, I'm not waiting for Mavenir to introduce a 2-year roadmap or have to rip out millions of dollars of equipment. So I'm hedging for sure with Mavenir, and they just happen to be the best option for us right now.
Yeah, just to kind of build on that, it's absolutely the pace in the software innovation is much quicker than the hardware, but there's also a lot of innovation happening in the hardware space, and the COTS platform and the accelerator that actually give you that compute power that you need for your software to actually run on, especially with those advanced high capacity features. So we're seeing the pace of innovation in the hardware also picking up to actually support the workload, which is very intense from a RAN perspective.
That's true. And the additional point to just build on what Sam and Mohammed just said, what Open RAN brings, we can add innovation very, very fast. Why? Because it's open interfaces. So now because we are doing everything from a software aspect, now we bring AI into it. So we can take how the network performance, take it back to the AI models and come back with much better optimization, better RF optimization, better for traffic steering. Those are all very valid use cases that we can implement very fast and adapt very fast, which a historical RAN deployment would not be able to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, a lot of this from my, I'm just a journalist. I'm a generalist. I'm not an expert like you guys. And sometimes it comes over as very abstract, and I try and get my head around it in a sort of tangible way. And
let me give you an example.
Yeah, please do.
So if we take, for example, traditional management systems, right? So you have monitoring software or management systems. They're very siloed in traditional organizations or traditional vendors. The fact that we're using cloud-based native software, I mean, I'm using open source tools to build dashboards and visualizations and data lakes across every domain in minutes. I'm able to, I mean, where we are now with commodity hardware and with Kubernetes, I mean, I can literally in seconds pull terabytes of data and run basic queries across databases, across analytics from my RAN, from my core, from my CRM, from my billing system, and start doing some incredible data modeling and analytics and prediction where traditionally this would have been a team in 3 years of work at a traditional telco.
And using the same tools, that's the key. He's using the same tools across his entire network stack.
And just to build on, that's a very good example, but just to build on that. So you use this internal rich data to optimize the network for operational purposes, optimize performance and maximize its efficiency. But imagine if you can expose the same data externally as well to software developer, to programmer, to application content. How can they actually develop an application in the most efficient way, knowing what the network is capable of at any point in time, at a given location? So there is the internal use cases, mining and AI the data, but there's also the programmability and exposing this capability externally to programmer and content developers.
He hit on a very key point, because what Rick does with open APIs is historically in the RAN space, if you wanted to innovate or you wanted to add a new feature, you're counting on the vendor to do it. They are the only ones who can access their product and do it. With open APIs, Mavenir can provide a platform. Any of the other billions of software developers out there who have got a good idea can innovate, come up with a new feature that can get implemented.
Yeah, that concept of open APIs and network exposure and that sort of thing has obviously been a major trend of Mobile World Congress for at least the last couple of years. Are you all saying that Open RAN is an intrinsic part of that mix?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why if you look at even maybe 2 or 3 years ago when Mavenir was talking Open RAN, the industry was generally very skeptical. Can this be done to the RAN space? Because in RAN space, there are some complications with the technology, because you have to deal with the radio frequencies, and you have to deal with, it's very time sensitive, it's real time sensitive. So the industry was generally very skeptical. But now, as in the last 3 years, what I see in this show especially, every major operator in the world has signaled that they want to go Open RAN. They see the benefits. They see the benefits of what disaggregation is bringing in. They see the innovation possibilities that an open system can bring in. So every major operator, and VMO2 being here as part of the Telefonica group, Telefonica Virgin Media Group, just a perfect example. all the major carriers are all signaled that they want to go Open RAN. And now even the traditional vendors have also publicly come out and made statements saying, hey, we are going to go Open RAN, we support Open RAN. So I'm very glad as a company as Mavenir, we were the sole people in the island, trying to raise the flag. And I'm glad to see the ecosystem now. The whole industry is actually moving towards that. So
yeah, you kind of anticipated a question I was going to ask, which was to ask what the current state of play is with it, because it's still a relatively young technological concept. Perhaps you could build on that, Mohammed. How, as much as you're allowed to give away, how are things progressing at VMO2 in terms of this switchover?
It's actually progressing very well. We, when we sort of came together, we put together a joint team to actually work on this project. So it's the we, not us, not them, which I think that is a key part of the successful ingredient. We've got a plan, we've defined the milestones, and we're making really good progress on the plan against those milestones. We're in the lab now, doing integration, doing testing, and things are progressing fairly positively. And soon we're going to be also doing testing in the field in a real environment against commercial traffic. So we've made really major strides. If I look back at when we started about 9-10 months ago. We had nothing, and now 9-10 months later, we've got set up in the lab, we've got activity happening in the field to prepare the network for the next phase of testing. So progressing very well. We've come a long way, but there's even a longer way to go.
Yeah, indeed. And it's obviously quite a different situation for you, Sam, being greenfield. But could you give us a sort of status update on how things are looking in terms of Open RAN in your networks?
For sure. So from the time that we started our build, just under 8 months, we were commercially live. That's core, that's RAN, that's everything end to end. And we have, just to go back to the principle here, that you're only as fast as your weakest link. We don't have as much spectrum as the incumbents. We don't have as many sites as the incumbents, but one of the global third-party benchmarkers has already told us that we're order of magnitude, we're the fastest network on the island. So if I look at it sort of as a, what's important to us, speed to market, flexibility, performance. I mean, we talked about power saving. This is something, unheard of, to be honest, where most vendors make claims that it's up to, but we're actually seeing, and in Bermuda specifically, we pay some of the highest power costs in the world. So we're acutely aware as a pre-revenue company how much we're paying on power. We're seeing deltas from when we were, blasting the network, doing our performance and drive testing to after. We're seeing deltas of 60-80% power savings. So, I mean, it's impressive how fast and how performing it is, and the TCO is definitely, even the capex is competitive, but the TCO is a no-brainer.
Yeah, there seems to be a really strong, I'm getting an even stronger OPEX story in terms of...
OPEX story in the context of energy savings, it's huge, because you have many industries contributing to that. You have the server industry, like Intel's. They're coming out more and faster, more energy efficient servers, chips. Then you have the CAS layer. They are also becoming a lot more optimized to consuming less power. Then the application providers like Mavenir, we're bringing AI in and saying, okay, how do I introduce deep sleep into a radio network when it's not being utilized in off hours? How do I turn the radio on just before we know the traffic can pick up? So there are a lot of things, a lot of innovation coming into the space. The best analogy I can give you is if you look at your home printer, right? Your home printer is in deep sleep most of the time. Moment you say hit print, the thing wakes up.
Yeah.
The radio network today is alive all the time. When there's 0 bits going on in the network, it's still alive.
Yeah.
But it would be fantastic if the radio network would act like that. Think about the energy savings that an operator would get from that. So those are the type of innovations that we are bringing in, which will actually bring a lot of OPEX savings to the operator as well, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, just to comment on that, from a brownfield perspective, I mean, a lot of those energy savings we already have in place today with the existing RAN, with the intelligence on top we have. But what we have been observing actually with Open RAN in general and Mavenir in particular is that additional layer of intelligence that is actually going much deeper into the stack. It's at a CPU level, at a time slot level, and try to optimize to the traffic every single almost 1 millisecond time slot. Obviously, that requires a lot of compute power to do that, but this is where we see the hardware innovation is kind of enabling you to do that. So I think the potential is really immense. And to me, it's not just about parity, it's actually even going beyond what we've got today. And I can see the potential is there.
Okay. So we're nearly out of time. I think the last thing I'd want to ask you all about, and I think I'll start with Sam and we'll move and we'll finish with BG. Just look to the future. So you've provided an extra framing of where things stand now and what the benefits are and all that sort of thing. How do we see this technology evolving over the next few years, starting with you, Sam?
Yeah, I think there's, if we could all predict the future, I think we'd all be done right now. But I think the key is the ecosystem, right? So back to the premise of you're only as fast as your weakest link, whether it's your people, your processor, your technology. Having partners that have the same mindset, that have the same entrepreneurial goals and structures, so that every decision they make, whether it's the microservices architecture, whether it's how they disaggregate, because a lot of people use buzzwords today, and it's actually taking one step forward, two steps back, because it's confusing the situation. Cloud RAN is not Open RAN. Using buzzwords, and if you're still, one example for us, we spent quite a bit of time at the beginning, because Open RAN wasn't ready when we first started building our network before we were with Mavenir, trying to make it work with one of the big incumbents vendors. And they would use words like virtualized, everything is virtual, but they had to sell me an HP box for my IMS and a proprietary their own box only for top of rack. And I ended up, for a small network, we run a whole network, a whole country now. It's a small country on 3.5 racks of Dell servers.
Wow. And
the equivalent was I was going to need a big data center for the same. So if I look at where this is going to go in the future, I think it's the people that are going to win big on this are the people that understand where this is heading and investing on as far out as they can see, as opposed to just sort of being a fast follow. And obviously there's different challenges for brownfields versus greenfields, but I think if everybody understands that telcos today, if we look at customer value, telcos today, where they suffer the most is speed to market. Telcos are not losing businesses to other telcos, they're losing it to OTTs. And today, telcos, if they understand where this is going, can now start innovating at the speed of a startup.
Okay, makes sense. So what about from a VMO2 perspective? What does the future hold for this technology?
I think it's very positive. I see the pieces of the puzzle are started to come together, actually coming together now. O-RAN is no longer a novelty or a proof of concept, it's a reality, and will go from a strength to strength. Innovation in the software and the pace of the innovation is really encouraging. Equally, the innovation in the hardware platform and the accelerator is also encouraging. Automation is going to be key. Collaborative partnership is going to be key across all the ecosystem players to bring it together into a performant working solution. We also have to be pragmatic, because coming from a brownfield network, you always want to have I've got 150 feature deployed on my network today, my starting point is 150. Do you really need the 150? So I think you need to be pragmatic and prioritize what is really important and what influences the customer experience. And that's exactly what we're doing with Mavenir. It's focusing on the key features and the capability that will drive performance, that will drive experience. Economics always going to be critical, so we've got to get the economics absolutely right.
I think I just to echo what both Sam and Mohammed said, I think the next couple of years, I see the ecosystem maturing even more as more and more players come in, and that's going to benefit the entire industry. But what I'm most excited about is the new innovation that nobody started thinking about. Of course, you got to get feature parity. That's table stakes. You got to get in with that. But I can just think about all the possible new services that the operators can launch on an open system with open APIs. It's not the services that Mavenir can dream of, but what the industry could dream of. Because once you have open APIs with an open system, there are a lot of people who can innovate, and they can all participate. And the more people participate, the innovation speed and the industry overall at large will benefit. So I'm super excited with what's going to come.
No, I think that's a great way to finish off. We're basically creating the platform for future innovation. We don't necessarily know what it is. You know, you hear cliched words like "what's the killer app" and that sort of thing. We don't know what that is yet, but without that platform there, it's never going to exist. So we have to do all that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's brilliant. That's really educational. I've learnt a lot, and it's great getting to know more about this subject from you three experts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.